नहीं
7 to 8 है।
अरे तुमने देखा कि नहीं टाइम टेबल?
वो टाइम टेबल दिखा रहा है, वो इग्नोर द शेड्यूल।
हिंदी का बुक मिला है ना सबको? नहीं है ना, जिसको नहीं मिला है वो बोलो।
है ना ज्योग्राफी हिस्ट्री वो मिलेगा ना, टेस्ट सीरीज है ना हिंदी का, हाँ तो मिलेगा।
लिया है टेस्ट सीरीज, क्या नाम है?
हमें पहले सब्जेक्ट का होगा, मार देगा मेरे।
मैं वो आधा समझ में आ रहा समझ
दिमाग लगा के एक तो क्वेश्चन मत से इधर से स्टार्ट कर रहा है भाई साहब, उसका दिमाग से
मैं अभी टाइम मिला था मेरे पापा ने घर में काम कर दिया।
ओमकार भी पूरा ऑफ द ग्रिड चला गया था, वो डिस्कॉर्ड भी ऑनलाइन नहीं आता, गायब भी हो गया था वो।
अबे वो कंप्यूटर से यूज करता है इसको, मतलब फोन था ही उसके पास। अली भाई मैं उस दिन एक डिलीवरी वाला भाई 14 फ्लोर पे पूरा ऐसे सील कर रखा है, पता है लिफ्ट अबे टेप कैसे नीचे से जाना पड़ता है पूरा। नहीं सर यार ऊपर के वैसे बिल्डिंग का
मुझे किसका टैलेंट है क्लास में
आ जाओ। और किसी को वो अन्य वो
हां
उसको भी नहीं मिला।
अन्य कोड को दे
सर तो टेनिस के बाद
अबे उसने सबका टेस्ट सीरीज दे रखा है।
टेस्ट सीरीज
मैंने
ले लो
4 2
3 हिंदी का बुक मिला है तुम लोगों सबको?
हिंदी के लिए है ही
नहीं ना।
टीचर मारे दिसली नहीं मेरा
इज माय काउ माय कैबिन
माय
अभी क्या है
अरे नहीं मेरे को आता है सब, पर वो मात्रा में कट जाता है।
वो यार सब आता है, वो सब आता है मैम मार्क्स कर देते हैं।
ये मुझे दे देना
ठीक
नहीं जब तुम्हारे एग्जाम से एग्जाम होने के बाद तो एग्जाम होने के बाद अर्पिता हिंदी का मस्त रहेगा, पता है मेरे पास साइंस है।
ओ भाई
हाँ
मैं टाइम पर कैसे है आए
अबे 2 बुक का याद रखना है।
इसलिए तो हिंदी का
हां भाई ये उठा
नौकर बेच रहा
बता
अबे देना भाई वाटर अबे देना पीना है
अबे क्यों पीने का है देखो, पानी की जरूरत नहीं है। अबे तू 3 मिनट जी सकता है बिना पानी के।
आज मेरे को नहीं जीना पड़े, मेरे को जीना है पर
जी सकता है ना बिना पानी के 3 दिन।
मेरे को पानी पी के जीना है पर
तो आ जाओ ऑटो में देता तेरे को
राइस पानी चाहिए
पानी।
I just want to hear from actually no card.
अरे वो जो बोला था ना वो आईआईटी पे वाला बंदा, उसका भी भाई है ना वो भी पीछे से आ रहा है।
ये ऑलरेडी लोग हमारे जो सीनियर है वो कोई नहीं रहते। अरे मैं सुना मुझे बोला मैं एनसी में अपॉइंटमेंट
अरे वो आईआईटी में वाला है ना,
हां वो फाइल
वो उसमें मेरे दोस्त जा रहे हैं। अरे देखो मैंने क्या बोला ना कि आईआईटी तो होगा नहीं इससे, तो फिर उन्होंने बोला कि नॉर्मल एमएससीटी पे कोई नॉर्मल कॉलेज में
इसमें लगेगा उसमें लगेगा।
हां आईआईटी की जरूरत भी नहीं है, नॉर्मल कर लो क्या चाहते हो
क्या
अबे आज इनके वाला
छोटे बेटे हाइलाइट से डरी लगता है
अबे आज
मैंने पढ़ाई थी
अबे भाई अबे मेरे को कुछ याद नहीं आ रहा है कल पढ़ा था
अबे मैंने एसिड फॉल्स बेस कर लिया ऊपर बता दो
मुझे लेना ही नहीं आपको बेटा 4 मार्क्स
कौन सा मैम
देख 2 मार्क्स तुमको क्वेश्चन आउट ऑफ सिलेबस था मैंने लिखा था उधर आंसर में आउट ऑफ सिलेबस मैंने कहा था
कौन सा
वो मॉडल ऑफ अरे तूने अगले लाया एक बार दिखाया ना अब तो चुप कर जा तो 2 मार्क्स को आउट ऑफ सिलेबस से मैंने अटेम्प्ट किया मैंने उधर लिखा था आउट ऑफ सिलेबस इसलिए कोई इतना आती थी वो मैं ट्राई नहीं किया तो स्टेटस डालती रहती है व्हाट्सएप पे अरे स्टेटस ही डाल रही है
अबे क्या था यूनिवर्सिटी क्या
अबे ये फॉर सम टाइम इट्स मी ऑन माय स्टेटस मुझे याद है यार मैं उसका फुल ऑन का स्टेटस डालती है अरे तू पैसों का बजट करा रहा था
क्या
2000 की नोट पर आउट ऑफ
क्या था
टीके
नाम भी भाई टीके मैं आप और सब ले रहा है
नहीं पता भाई
क्या है
चेक कर समझ में
ICSE स्टूडेंट्स
थैंक गॉड
ये गांव वाले में स्ट्रगल
मेरी मम्मी नहीं बोली
तो मान से हम लोग रिक्शा पकड़ के
ट्रैफिक से नहीं करेंगे
डिफरेंस बिटवीन आरएनए और डीएनए की जगह बस स्टैंड में होती है आरएनए से बस स्टैंड अब कहां है निकालिए मैंने तो मिला ही नहीं मैंने बस सुना था इतना
अभी यूपीए टेक्स्ट
बोलूं
तो क्यों पढ़ रही है
हां मैंने तो डीएनए कंपेयर्ड फ्रॉम लॉन्ग चेन ऑफ न्यूक्लियोटाइड्स और आरएनए को हो गया हां हो गया दो डिफरेंशिएट्स एक तो बायोलॉजी आता है ऊपर से पढ़ना तो पड़ेगा ना
सेकंड पेपर
नहीं है
अभी सेकंड पेपर का लिखना ही नहीं है
मल्टीप्लिकेशन
सिर्फ एडिशन सबट्रैक्शन बायोलॉजी का डाउट है तो देख उसको हां मैंने पीरियोडिक जगह से बस सफरना तेरा को नहीं बहुत बड़ा है यार इसने बहुत क्या करेगा से तो आता है
अभी इधर से आता है पूरा अबे ज्योग्राफी का इसने बस न्यूक्लियर वॉल्यूम पढ़ा था तो 90 मिला
शीलोन ब्लेड
जी
मैं टेक्स्ट बुक पढ़ा तो इतना गंदा
टेक्स्ट बुक से आता है
इधर से आता है सब इधर
अबे शीलोन ब्लेड भाई इधर और भाई
रिशा चिंतन को कुछ बोलिए डॉक्टर
माइटोसिस क्या है
साथ दिया देख ऐसे अदर का
डिवाइड बाय 4 होगा ये
बायोलॉजी में
फोर सीजन में हां तो ये टीचर है ना वो क्या नाम
भाई दिखाना
यार अबे 17 मिला है भाई वो दूरवेश को फर्स्ट रैंक दे
क्या इसमें
अबे ज्योग्राफी के उसमें
मुझे भी मिला है
तेरे नाम के में 17
बस कवर करने वाले बच्चे
आप आपने कोई खेल को
क्या
इसमें
शिवानी को 13 मिला स्कूल 12 मिला हां ना मेरा नाम
इसको तो बेटा
अरे वाह
दो
Insta EMI card is just
वही मात्र
पापा का email ID लिख के
ये
रख।
12 मिला और ये
गाड़ी में ना ब्रो
साइज तेरा और है वो तेरा समान
कौन सा सब्जेक्ट अबे उसने दिया था वापस क्या शायद
तो वापस दे सकते हैं क्या
उसे वो भी उसे देखा वापस सॉल्यूशन पेपर
वैसे तो सबको मिल जाएगा
वीडियो है
इसमें लिख
मेरे को बायोलॉजी में जाना पड़ेगा
और मैं स्कूल एग्जाम से देखा अरे
मैं स्कूल एग्जाम
इतनी क्यों टेंस हो गई
क्या भाई
भाई पता नहीं कैसे बताऊंगा जून खत्म होना आ गया
हो जाएगा
14 जुलाई को पहला
हिंदी कैसे होगा हिंदी होगा से और मान अरे क्या होगा
होगा।
नहीं होता ओवर तो इतने बात है वाला नहीं ओवर नहीं मारे अगला में कुछ मिक्स तो वैसे ही था
भाई क्या कुछ कर नहीं
हिंदी को
हिंदी का क्या ही कट गया बता रही
हिंदी को क्वेश्चन आया नहीं है
So, क्या होता है ऐसे वर्ड नहीं
ये वीडियो सिंपल कर दो दिखा
ठीक हो रहा है
लाइक आयोडीन
I'm sorry remainder and factor theorem
आज तक हम माना मैटर
हां तो ये होते हैं आया हो जाएगा
ठीक है भाई अभी ये सभी मिल जाएगी
पास ही नहीं हुई सेकंड बार
नमाज में मेरे पापा डांटेंगे
नहीं डांटेंगे
और अगर पास हुई तो फिर मम्मी फोर्स
भाई
करेगी
क्या अनकंफर्टेबल है
कोई बात नहीं पास और 10
बेटर देन
about 90 या about 95 भी नहीं एक्सपेक्ट करते
ना भी 10 रहता है इंपॉर्टेंट
भाई
बस 90 के ऊपर चल
Please COVID this तो norms तो follow करो wear your mask properly तो डालो दुर्वेश दे पीछे निहार आया आपको दिखता ही नहीं अयान नहीं है कयन नहीं है उन्नति
So, okay.
अच्छा मार्क्स दिख रहा है मैंने कॉपी किया था तुमने दिखाया ये क्या तुम सारे में ऐसे ही है हाँ 1 2 3 में ही रहने का अनुष्का है कौन है
मोरे पे
17
श्रीराम अरे खाए नहीं होता मैं क्यों ऐसा लगाया हाँ
अभी
अंतर में भी बॉटल है
मैं भी इसने लिखा था मेरे बॉटल
आपके
में
पास उधर डस्टबिन तो है
सबको 17 मिला
19 वाला लिखना है
पायल
चालू के क्लाइमेट सॉइल हिस्ट्री का पहला
श्रीराम क्यों फुल मार्क्स नहीं आता है इतने में खुश हो जाता है हाँ
हम आया था एक बार
ये तुम्हारा है क्या बात है बाबा
मैम वो एग्जाम के एक दिन पहले से पापा को बुलाया
चारवी सुहानी सुहानी ने ओंकार ने
अबे मैं 2 ही पॉइंट लिखा है
देखो अभी वो कैंटीन में मिल गया
हाँ मिल गए तुम्हारा सारे पेपर्स? तुम्हारा भी? हाँ? तो ये इसे पीछे का दरवाजे से भाग के मत जाओ 6:30 के बाद 6:20 के बाद। अगर जाने वाले हैं तो मुझे मिल के जाओ, नहीं तो सब लोगों को अटेंड करने का है मैथ्स एक्स्ट्रा
मेरी मम्मी बोली एक तो फिर मेरी मम्मी बोली
अबे कितने दे रहे हो? छोड़ रहे हो
What was the homework?
9.31, 165, 167.
पे 500 रुपए का 10 नोट मिल गया ना यार।
अरे तो इंग्लिश में तो इसमें है ना
नहीं बायो प्राइवेट में डालना है
तो ये भी प्राइवेट ही है ये भी प्राइवेट ही है That's what she did.
गाली नहीं आया
क्या
मेरा माला से जाएगा लगे इसमें काम
Yes, your homework question is out.
Yes.
Come. Keep that notebook there. Give it on the floor.
The first one, right?
Eight cup first beta. What happens? Very good. Next slide. Yes, make note. That's all. Yes, sir. You're there in the class. It was done. Question number 9. Let M into a matrix T equal to 1, 2. Find the order of the matrix M. See, look at the matrix on the right hand side. What is the order of that matrix? What is the order? 1 by 2. बराबर के नहीं? राइट हैंड साइड में जो मैट्रिक्स है उसका ऑर्डर क्या है? 1 by 2. तो m का भी जो ऑर्डर होगा that will be same 1 by 2. सेकंड वाले में देखो, राइट हैंड साइड पे मैट्रिक्स का ऑर्डर क्या है? 2 by 1. So m का ऑर्डर क्या होगा? 2 by 1. So see how you're going to do it. Okay. Understood. Now you're going to solve it. In the second case, just like what we did here, you find out the values of x and y, and that will be your matrix M. Understood? Complete. Both the questions. Alright, the second equation also the same. That's all. That's what 270 of the supply. Again, coefficient same value. So 270 also supply. Not you cancel yours. Have you really cancelled that one?
Huh? Sorry.
So it's good for me. Will definitely guide you. What sector is on. क्या कंप्यूटर है भाई? कि राइट कैसे है वो कंफ्यूज है। वो तो ऑरेंज बुक है ना? ऑरेंज बुक।
सर क्या तो बंद।
कुछ ना शर्मा का क्या है? हम दो दोस्त हैं। शर्मा नहीं क्या? तो इसको सीखा है ना? नहीं उसका बात करते हैं ये कैसे ये बना लेगा? ये ऐसा कैसे बना? फुल क्लियर है ना? नहीं गाँव देखती है ये वैसे ही रहता है over then I cannot help you if you do not know how to solve two equations. Then God bless you. After making the equations and you don't know how to solve it, I'm sorry. I'm not going to help you there. Okay? Fine. So we have finished the chapter, right?
Then we remainder of factor.
Remainder factor. Okay, वो दिखाई नहीं था last time मेरे को portion में.
सर नहीं वो
हाँ?
चलो आगे का क्वेश्चन पहले करवा देंगे
उसका
बोर्ड में नहीं आ रहा
है
ना?
ठीक है. नहीं, I think Nihar had shown me the book in which remainder factor there was not marked.
फर्स्ट टाइम के लिए वो क्या थे? सो फर्स्ट टाइम का पोर्शन हमारा खत्म हो चुका है ऑलरेडी।
So we start with remainder and factor theorem.
तो वो बोर्ड के लिए है ना?
ये ना? हाँ, नहीं है।
तो पढ़ाओ सर।
कोशिश करता हूँ बेटा।
क्या बात है कर
स्टैंडिंग
कर दो
हाँ दिखता है
ऑनलाइन में 4 लोग हैं
मैं यही सीख
That's what she says.
Is 2 a factor of 8?
Yes.
because when we divide 8 by 2, the remainder is 0. Therefore, we say that 2 is a factor of 3. Is 2 a factor of 9? No. Why? Because when we divide 9 by 2, the remainder is not 0. So this is a fundamental principle that if one polynomial is divided by another polynomial and the remainder so obtained is 0, then the second polynomial is a factor of the first polynomial. If the remainder is any number other than 0, then the second polynomial is not a factor of the first polynomial. This I explained to you by just asking you a simple question, whether 2 is a factor of 8. You said yes, because the remainder is 0. And whether 2 is a factor of 9, you said no, because the remainder is not 0. Very, very simple. Same thing is going to apply here when we do remainder and factor theorem. Find in each case the remainder when polynomials are denoted by P of x or F of x, R of x, S of x, anything. Okay. That is 4x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 4. Divisor.
सर
Yes.
सर हम कौन सा चैप्टर कर रहे हो बता सकते हो मैं डिस्कनेक्ट हुआ था बीच में
Remainder and factor theorem.
क्या सर
Remainder and factor theorem यार. वो
Okay.
मार्क्स के बोल रहा था ना सर. Chapter number 8.
थैंक यू सर
You're most welcome. So देखो इसमें steps क्या procedure क्या है. We'll say let divisor be equal to 0. Therefore 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. Therefore 2x is equal to minus 1. Therefore x is equal to minus half. Any doubts to me? Now we are going to substitute this value of x in the polynomial. Therefore p of minus half means in place of x I have substituted minus half. So what I did on the left hand side, the same thing I'm going to do on the right hand side also. Minus half the whole cube minus half the whole square minus half minus 4. This is clear. That is 4 into minus 1 by 8 minus 3 into 1 by 4 minus 1 minus 4. Ones are, twos are. Minus 1 by 2, minus 3 by 4, minus 5. LCM is 4, minus 2, minus 3, minus 20, minus 25 by 4. Is 2x plus 1 a factor of the polynomial? No, because this remainder is not 0. They haven't asked you that. They've only told you to find the remainder. Is this clear? Question number 2. Sub question number 2. इधर बोला show that, prove that, मतलब वो होने वाला ही है. Show that 3x plus 2 is a factor of divisor 3x plus 2. Let 3x plus 2 be equal to 0. Therefore, 3x is minus 2. Therefore, x is minus 2 by 3. P of minus 2 by 3. 3 into minus 2 by 3 the whole square. Minus 2 by 3. Minus 2. 3 into 4 by 9 plus 2 by 3 minus 2. 4 plus 2, 6 by 3. 2 minus 2, 0. Now write since P of minus 2 by 3 is equal to 0. Therefore, 3x plus 2 is a factor of 3x squared minus x minus 2. Show that बोला है, मतलब वो होने वाला ही है. Is this clear? Everybody, please complete question number 1, both the parts. Question number 2, all the 3 parts.
इसका सेकंड
Because there are some writing, but there is subtraction wrong there. 81 plus 6 is 87, and 60 plus 27 is also 87.
yes
तो दोनों cancel हो जाएगा 0 हो जाएगा.
सर 0.40 होता है
0 को any number 0. Yes, sir. Still by 2 the work cube will go from -27 by 8. Numerator का भी तो cube ले लेंगे. Four upon 0 is not
infinite
anything upon 0 is not defined. इसको बोलते हैं equation nonsense. Okay. 0 को नहीं जानते 0 जो बात क्या होता है लोगों का उनके ये तो आपको पूछना भी नहीं चाहिए शो दैट है आप किसकी बात पूछ रहे हो हाँ तो आपने क्या किया इसको 50 कॉलम रखा इधर 4 एलसीएम ले लिया तो आपको डाउट ही नहीं आया इसमें क्या रॉन्ग किया है पहले आप इधर क्यूब डालना भूल गए आप इधर स्क्वायर डालना भूल गए क्या बोलती तू इधर किया और 3 का क्यूब नहीं होगा वो भी जब ऐसे रह जाएगा कुछ तो -3/2 का स्क्वायर क्या बनेगा? -3/2 का स्क्वायर 9/4 होगा ना। आपने उसको भी 3/4 ही लिखा। दोनों पार्ट, दोनों फर्स्ट एंड सेकंड क्वेश्चन भेजिए। मैं कुछ बोलूं बेटा, ये सब लिखने का ना सेंस वो सब लिखते ही है तू। अब सोच किसी को कॉपी करना हो तो कैसा कॉपी करेगा, है ना? क्या
सर वो मैथ सेक्शन प्रैक्टिस आप ही देगा?
नहीं, होमवर्क यस
तो वाशी वाले सर ले रहे हैं, वाशी वाले
मतलब नितिन सर
वही पढ़ाने वाले
इसमें क्या होमवर्क रहेगा कुछ
क्या सर? उसमें लास्ट है वो एक सेंटेंस है सर, फिर वो हो गया मेरा।
Your homework is unsolved exercise 8.1, question number 1 and 2.
होमवर्क एक्सरसाइज कर रहे हैं।
हाँ?
होमवर्क एक्सरसाइज कर रहे हैं।
होमवर्क है ना? होमवर्क एक्सरसाइज
8.1 homework exercise 1 and 2.
Yes, 8.1 homework exercise question numbers 1 and 2. Thank you very much.
धन्यवाद। चलो भाई, एक बन गया बैठना है। बैठोगे आप भी? तू भी बैठ जाते।
मैं भगाई
अबे नहीं भगाई ना। कौन यहाँ पे कौन बैठेगा? आप ही बैठेगा।
उधर बैठाएंगे।
देखते हैं
हवाई जहाज
कौन आ रहा है?
हवाई जहाज अच्छे।
आप लोग कौन बैठेगा?
आने आना बोलो आने आने अरे इधर इधर हम लोग को मैथ टीचर आज क्या पढ़ाएंगे? तो हो गया
वो वाली के लिखा हम खुद ही करते हैं लिखते हैं
टेक्निक का भी हो गया था तब हो गया
फिर क्या हाँ देखियो मेरे को मरना नहीं मेरे को मरना नहीं मेरे को इधर आगे बैठ
आगे लेके मेरे को मरना आ रहा हूँ हमारी चीजों को भेज दे
अरे होमवर्क क्या था? हेलो, what was the homework? होमवर्क क्या था? हेलो,
सबको 17 इसको 20 मिला।
Good evening, all of you.
Good evening, ma'am.
Why so less today?
Good evening, ma'am.
Who is there?
Good evening, ma'am.
You all are online? Okay. Excretory system, how much we are done with that chapter? The last part. Did we complete what happened there? Are we done with the process of filtration of blood? Are we done with that? Okay. Process of filtration of the blood we are done. Give me the textbook there. Text questions I must have asked you to do. Yes or no? Text questions I must have been, but we did not discuss. No, some answers. Questions of the volume, did I ask you to do?
Yes, ma'am. You had given us it as homework.
Take out your volume and check. Take out your volume and check. Did I give you certain questions to be finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Homework. I must have given certain questions as homework. All of you check whether you have finished the questions of the volume. How many questions of the volume I had asked you to do? 8, 10.
15, 19, 20, 25 and 26.
Did you all finish? Questions of the volume. Tick karo fatafat. Which page is it?
142.
142. I'll give you last 5 minutes to complete those of you haven't finished now. After that, I'll start discussing the answers now. Text questions, quite a number of them will be repetition there, so I'll take the volume questions at one go. Last 5 minutes I'll give you. Those of you haven't finished, finish up. Online students, if you haven't finished the questions of the volume that I had given, complete karo, last 5 minutes, complete karo. If any of the questions are not done. We'll complete with this chapter today. A few more topics to discuss. We'll complete with all these topics today. Sphincter muscles are present in the junction of the bladder and the urethra. When the urinary bladder is filled with the urine, under nervous impulse, the sphincter muscles will contract and the passage of the urethra will open. And then the process of release of urine known as micturition will happen. Right side में arrow meaning where right side? These are the sphincter muscles. These are the sphincter muscles on the at the junction of the bladder and the urethra. वॉल्यूम के क्वेश्चंस में एनी डाउट दैट यू हैव, वी विल नॉट कॉपी फ्रॉम ईच अदर. यू हैव अ डाउट, एनीबॉडी हैज अ डाउट, क्लैरिफाई करो. Ask your query, not to just copy down from here there. अरे ये टी शर्ट तुमको कहाँ से मिला? ये वाला टी शर्ट तुमको कहाँ से मिला? टी शर्ट आई एम से स्कैरी है. आज तो क्लास के भूत लोग आया ही नहीं है. तुम ये टी शर्ट आज नहीं पहनना चाहिए था. आज सारे भूत लोग क्लास के एब्सेंट है. How many more questions are done? How many more questions are left? I gave you 6 questions. Out of these, at least 2, 3 done. 2, 3 done. No. Five minutes. After that, I have start discussing. Karo. Fatafat. What is it?
ADH.
ADH is secreted by posteriorly. Done. First two over now, all of you. First two over now.
Yes, ma'am, over.
Yes, you see this? Column is not taking a portion. Which one? One. Two medulla. Renal column is not actually explained in your syllabus much. Renal columns. In your diagram, it is only cortex. One is cortex, two is medulla. Two कहाँ पे cortex है? Two medulla है ना? चलो, I'll get one volume. We'll discuss the answers. Because एक volume देना हम कहता है इसे. Are you able to solve the answers? Are you getting the answers? No? You are there, no? Both of you were there, no? The previous, you are not there. Last lecture, you were not there. You're from which school? Euro school. You don't have your volume? Diya nahi abhi tak? Okay. We'll discuss the answers. We have finished one. First one होगा. चलो, we'll discuss. I'll take your volume turn by turn. चलो. Now turn to page 142. The first question. Turn to page 142. The first question that I gave you is, I gave you question number 8. I gave you question number 8. Check that answer there. Question number 8. Question number 8. Prisha, keep answering all the questions. Number 8. Identify the system. Excretory system. Check your answer. Excretory system. Number 2. Label the parts 2 and 4.
2 is urethra and 4 is sphincter muscles.
2 is ureter, 4 sphincter muscles. Mention the function of 5.
5 is urethra. It helps in the release of urine from the bladder.
It helps in the release of urine from the bladder. Likha? Anybody has not written, please write. What is the fluid that accumulates in parts 3 called? What is the fluid that accumulates in part 3? What is 3? What is 3?
Urine.
Then, no, 3 is, which part is 3? Bladder, no?
Yes.
So what is the fluid? Urine. What is the main nitrogenous base present in it?
Urethra.
Urea. Main nitrogenous waste, urea. 2 nitrogenous waste, urea and uric acid. Main पूछा है, we are ureotelic organisms, remember. In our body, urea is the most abundant toxic waste formed. Draw a neat label diagram of the longitudinal section of part 1. Which diagram we are supposed to draw? Section of the kidney showing the cortex medulla that the other day we had drawn. The second diagram that we draw. The second diagram that we had drawn. Do you remember that? Cortex medulla, then the pyramid pelvis. So showing that those parts. Come to the next one. Number 10. Number 10. Durvesh, number 10. The diagram given below is that of a structure present in the human kidney. Study the same and answer the questions that follow. Number 1. Name the structure in the diagram. Nephron. What is the other name? Kidney. किसने बोला ये? Nephron. What is the other name of nephron? Renal tubule or uriniferous tubule. Renal tubule or uriniferous tubule. Kidney tubules also. What is the liquid entering part 1 called? Liquid entering part 1. Part 1 क्या है? पहले diagram देख के बताओ. Part 1 is what?
Glomerulus.
अरे diagram देखो ना. Part part 1 को क्या? What is the name of part 1? Bowman's capsule. Now, what is the liquid that enters part 1? Which is the process that happens in glomerulus? What is the process that happens in glomerulus? Ultrafiltration. The other day I was writing very sequentially. Ultrafiltration के बाद जो fluid बनता है उसको क्या बोलते हैं? Glomerular filtrate. So your answer here is, what is the liquid entering part 1? Glomerular filtrate. Ultrafiltrate. Glomerular filtrate. Name 2 substances present in the liquid that are reabsorbed in the tubule. Glucose, sodium. Water भी लिख सकते हैं. Water, sodium, glucose. What is the fluid that comes to part 2 called? Part 2 क्या है? पहले तुम ये बोलो. Part 2. No, part 2. Collecting duct है ना? DCT का भी point है. Part 2 is collecting duct. हाँ कि ना? हाँ. Part 2 is collecting duct. So now the fluid in part 2, after all the process is over, what is the fluid in part 2 called? Urine. Name the main nitrogenous waste in it. Again, urea. Main nitrogenous waste, urea. Mention the 3 main steps involved in the formation of the fluid in one above. What are the 3 steps? Durvesh, तुम्हारा नाम नहीं है. Selective reabsorption, secretion. Okay. Name the substances which may be present in the fluid in part 2 in a person suffering from diabetes mellitus. Which substance will not show too much of a reabsorption if a person is suffering from diabetes mellitus? Diabetes mellitus. Acha. Of course, we haven't discussed this. Now, here, if I have to come across, we can write down the answer, but we will write after understanding abnormal constituents of the urine. That is what I have to explain with reference to that question. Yes, we had already studied, no, the other day, that what should the urine normally have? A small amount of water necessary for dissolving the nitrogenous waste. And how much of the nitrogenous waste? Or how much of the water, if I talk about the urine, which is hypertonic, slight yellowish in color, has got about 95% water, 5% solids are there. And out of that, urea is the prominent nitrogenous waste. And then there are some potassium ions, and there are some drugs, poisons, and there are some soluble vitamins, etc., etc. No. Did we talk about glucose and sodium presence? Yes, we said glucose and sodium are present we have, then they should be in traces for a healthy person. But if glucose is present in adequate amount, if glucose is present in adequate amount, then what do we talk about that as? Diabetes mellitus. If glucose is present in an adequate amount, then we understand that the person is suffering from a condition known as diabetes mellitus. And with reference to endocrine glands, already you had studied this. This is because of the deficiency of which hormone? Nahi. Diabetes mellitus is because of the deficiency of insulin. So now we are talking about two things, that the process of reabsorption is not happening properly, and on top of that, insulin which is not being released by the pancreas, that is also not allowing the body cells to absorb the glucose. So abhi ye do condition hai which is actually not allowing the glucose to run into the blood, and the glucose is remaining in the kidney tubule in large amount, large concentration. So under the concept of abnormal constituents, I pick up this. If glucose is present in the urine in large concentration, this condition is known as diabetes mellitus. Of course, this is majorly due to the improper selective reabsorption, जो PCT में होता है, loop of Handley में होता है, where already we have understood that in the PCT, adequate amount of glucose and sodium all should go back to the blood. In the PCT, whatever fluid is there, from there, a large amount of water, sodium, glucose, सब blood में चला जाना चाहिए. That is what we had learned at selective reabsorption. So reabsorption अभी नहीं हो रहा है. On top of that, insulin deficiency is tremendous in the body. That is the reason what also, because of insulin deficiency, also now, what is happening? The glucose is not able to go back to the blood and remain in the urine. So what is the question now? Name the substance which may be present in the fluid in part 2. If a person is suffering from diabetes, you are supposed to write glucose there. You will write there glucose. Is that all? All of you got these answers? Now next case we move on to number 15. Did I give you number 15 to do?
Yes.
Number 15. Did you complete number 15? Was there no answer? Keep reading.
The amount of urine output is under the regulation of a hormone called ADH, secreted by the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. If this hormone secretion is reduced, there is an increased production of urine. This disorder is called diuresis. Sometimes excess glucose is passed with urine due to hypersecretion of another hormone called insulin, leading to the cause of a disease called diabetes mellitus.
All of you got these answers now? Any doubt? Online, any doubt? Number 15. All of you got the answers? All the blanks, you got the answers? Number 19 now. Number 19. Number 19. With Aishwarya, the girl there sitting. Number 19. Not done. Who has finished that side? No. Are? Aishwarya, are you done? Number 19 not done. Bolo. Tanmay bolo. Number 19.
Label the parts number 1 to 4. 1 renal capsule, second cortex or medulla, third pelvis, 4 ureter. Why does part 2 have a
Label the parts 1 to 4. What is it? One is
renal capsule.
One is
renal capsule.
Cortex, renal cortex. Number 2 is renal medulla. Number 3 is pelvis. 4 is ureter. Why does part 2 have a stripped appearance?
One loop of Henle.
No. Why does part 2, I gave you the answer the first class already. Why does part 2 have a stripped appearance? Part 2 matlab medulla.
It has fiber-like arrangement of nephrons.
Because it has
Ma'am, they have dotted a
Thread-like arrangement of the nephrons.
Matrician body with the cortex in the middle of
why do part 2, that is why do medulla have a stripped appearance? Your answer always is because of the arrangement of the renal pyramid. Because of the arrangement of the renal pyramids, which are a bundle of collecting ducts. Because of the arrangement of the renal pyramids.
वो आंसर आपने इसके लिए दिया था कॉर्टेक्स के लिए
Cortex के लिए दिया था, medulla के लिए नहीं दिया था. Why does cortex have a dotted appearance and why does medulla have a stripped appearance? नहीं लिखा था.
medulla का नहीं लिखा.
अच्छा अभी वो question complete करो and then I will give you that answer also. These two questions often will come in your paper. अभी ये complete करो. Part already done. Label the part 1 to 4 done. Why does part 2 have a stripped appearance? Answer before. Because of the presence of pyramids. 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 So yeah.
Yes.
Now next क्या है number 3.
What is the fluid that passes down part 4 made the main nitrogenous waste present in
What is the fluid passing down in the part 4?
urine?
Urine. Name the main nitrogenous base. What is the position like urea? Mention the structural and functional unit. Nephrons. Name the two major steps.
Ultrafiltration and urease.
Ultrafiltration and selective reabsorption. Ultrafiltration and selective reabsorption. Ultrafiltration and selective reabsorption. Now, before we forget, in your notebook, please take one answer. Then we will again come back to the volume. Then we have to complete with this also. Why does the medulla have a stripped appearance?
Because of the presence of pyramid.
Renal pyramid. Take it as an answer also, not to forget. Why does the medulla have a stripped appearance? Why does the medulla have a stripped appearance? Why does the medulla have a stripped appearance? Likho. The medulla has a arrangement of bundles of collecting ducts, forming the renal pyramids, Full stop. These THESE, these bristle-like structures, BRISTLE, these bristle-like structures give a stripped appearance, to the medulla. So remember the connection of the parts and the terms. Now come to the next question, Fatafat. Come to the next question. Next question. Next is which one now?
20.
Number 20. Go to 720 writing. Number 20. Label the parts 1, 2, 3, 4. Label the parts 1, 2, 3, 4. One is what? One is collecting duct. Two is PCT, no? Proximal convoluted tubule. No. Two is DCT. This is true, no? DCT, distal convoluted tubule. DCT, two is the side. And then three, there is three. Loop of Handley.
One third, no?
And four is Bowman's capsule. नहीं, Bowman's capsule पे मार्क है ना? Bowman's capsule. So what I said, one is distal convoluted tubule. No, one is
collecting the
one is collecting duct, distal convoluted tubule, loop of Hadley and Bowman's capsule. The next questions are state the reason for the high hydrostatic pressure in glomerulus.
not this one.
Because of the wider afferent arteriole, because of the wider afferent arteriole and narrow efferent arteriole. That is the most important reason for the hydrostatic pressure there. Because of the wider afferent arteriole, afferent, A-double-F, and narrow efferent arteriole, Next is name the blood vessel which contains the least amount of urea in the diagram. Which blood vessel will have least amount of urea? यहाँ पे कौन-कौन से तीन blood vessel या चार blood vessel जो इस diagram में दिख रहा है? कौन-कौन से blood vessel? I want to know the answer first of all from you all. Four blood vessels mainly you can see here in this diagram. Four main blood vessels you can see. What are the four main blood vessels? Who will write this? Four main blood vessels. Four नहीं, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Five main blood vessels you see in this diagram. कौन-कौन से हैं पांच main blood vessels in this diagram? हाँ, efferent arteriole एक है, efferent दूसरा है, renal artery एक है, renal vein एक और है, और एक कौन सा है? Secondary capillary. तो पांच तरह के blood vessels you get to see here, no? अभी ये पांच में से which will have the least concentration of urea? Renal vein. हमने बोला था देखो. Renal vein will have the least concentration of urea. Renal vein will have the least concentration, or after the process of reabsorption secretion, no, renal vein. Name the two main stages that you know already now. Name the part of the nephron which lies in the renal medulla. Which lies in the renal medulla?
Collecting the
Loop
of Hadley lies in the connecting in the medulla, because the collecting duct also starts from the cortex. Collecting duct also starts from the cortex, though majority or the major part is in the medulla, but the loop of Hadley is all in the medulla. Done. Now next is last one, number 25. Name the parts 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I don't need to repeat. Same है ना? अच्छा, one क्या है? One is what? State. Okay, you don't have to go. One बोलेगा. Wait. Number 1. One will be what? One is what? Huh? One is what? What's your name? Nupur बोलो. One is what? The main broad vessel. Vena cava, very good. Vena cava, one is vena cava. 2 क्या होगा? Aorta. 3 क्या होगा? I'm sorry. See the arrows. I'm sorry. Arrows. One is aorta. No. One is, this is a vein. I'm correct. No, you're correct. It's okay. The vein will give away the blood. It's correct. No. One is vena cava. It's correct. No. See the arrows. Check the arrows properly. And 2 में देखो, the blood is entering. No. The blood by the way of the aorta and the renal artery will enter. Yeah, it's correct. One है vena cava, 2 है aorta. Then what is 3? Renal artery. And 4. 4 is what?
Renal vein.
4 is renal vein. Did you get that, all of you? 4 is renal vein. Give the main function of the parts. Label 5, 6, 7, and 8. Main function of the parts labeled. Let us start. Number 5. What is the main function of 5? From kidney to bladder. Function of 6. Stores the urine. 7.
It helps in the contraction.
Regulates the release of urine from the bladder. Regulates the release of urine from the bladder. And 8. Releases the urine from the bladder. Releases the urine from the bladder. Backflow of urine is prevented by the muscles of the bladder, which closes or covers the opening of the urethra. Backflow of the urine is prevented by the muscles of the bladder itself.
26 is also there.
Huh?
26.
Left it is.
Number last one.
That's there. What is it now? Number 26. Name the following organ where urea is produced. Liver. I explained it this already. The hormone that helps increase the reabsorption. ADH. Okay. Something more that we will cover up here also. Quite a number of things that we had done here. Let us do it here again. Regulation of the urine output. We have to talk about this. Here, what am I trying to understand is, in this concept, regulation of urine output. First of all, we start with the concept of ultrafiltration. समझने की कोशिश करो. Very simple things. Once you understand, it's always easy to remember for a long time. So I am first of all talking about the process known as ultrafiltration. And once we talk about the process of ultrafiltration, now we know that after the process of ultrafiltration, what is the fluid formed? Glomerular filtrate. And I said the other day also that now that this glomerular filtrate is formed, this glomerular filtrate is produced in large amount. And I said roughly about 160 to 180 liters per day. Roughly about 160 to 180 liters per day. That much of glomerular filtrate is formed. How? As I said that we only have 6 liters of blood in our body, but it is understood that every volume of the blood passes through the kidney more than 60 to 80 times, and hence any volume of the blood gets filtered that many number of times. So yes, so much of the glomerular filtrate, but from these, is it that all of it is converted into urine? No, all of it is not converted into urine. But if I have to talk about how much of the urine loss, we should understand the maximum 2 liters per day. So what is happening here? A process known as reabsorption, and that is what we had already studied under the concept of selective reabsorption. So which are the 2 main parts of the nephron जहाँ पे ये process हो रहा है? PCT सबसे ज़्यादा, and then if I have to talk about Looper family associated with water. So when we are talking about PCT, there are large amount of water, sodium glucose reabsorption happens, followed by the reabsorption of water in the Looper family. And that is what again we are understanding is able to regulate the amount of urine output. But if the process of reabsorption does not happen, is it possible that in an individual this may happen? Yes, it is possible if a person does not have adequate amount of the hormone known as ADH. ADH, vasopressin, a particular hormone released by the posterior pituitary. Already I have studied this. A person who is not having an adequate amount of ADH, posterior pituitary hormone, then the process of reabsorption is not happening in adequate amount. The process of reabsorption is not happening, and the amount of urine output will be much more. That can be higher to something around 3 to 4 liters also per day. 3 to 4 liters is quite a big amount. It's quite a big amount. So much of the water is lost, and as a result, so much of the ions are lost from the body. Ions are lost from the body. So now, when we are talking about so much of the water loss, or if I have to understand that the release of about 3 to 4 liters per day is quite a big amount that we are talking about. And this symptom that we understand is known as diuresis. This symptom is called diuresis. This symptom is called diuresis, and along with that, when we are talking about some other additional symptoms, we are talking about a condition known as diabetes. What is this? Insipidus. Diabetes insipidus, not mellitus, remember. Diabetes insipidus we are talking about. So when we are trying to understand the regulation of urine output, the main hormone regulating is ADH, and which can allow the process of reabsorption happen efficiently. Now, next is little bit to understand the abnormal constituents of the urine. Already we talked about one. I said what should be the normal constituents? The normal constituents, we already know that it should have nitrogenous base substances, urea, uric acid, ammonia. It should have adequate amount of water to dissolve them. And if I have to talk about potassium and the vitamins, soluble vitamins are there, drugs, poison, yes. And if I have to talk about essential substances like glucose and sodium, they should be in traces. One already we saw, if it is in higher amount, then this is the condition, diabetes mellitus. Again, associated with one more hormone there. And what is that hormone? Just now we discussed, we were talking about hormone insulin. Let us talk about this. Should the blood have adequate amount of blood cells in it? Should the color of the, should the urine have adequate amount of blood cells in it? Should the urine be reddish in color? No. That indicates a large number of conditions happening in the body, something associated with the ailments in the body, malfunctioning of the body. The color of the urine always should be slight yellow, light yellow in shade, and because of the pigment urochrome, you already understand. So when we are talking about that, if the urine is found to be reddish, which also indicates presence of blood cells in it, which may be because of various conditions like kidney infections, other different infections of the excretory ducts also, not only associated with the kidney directly, any type of infection in the excretory ducts, and also associated with tumor and cancerous conditions of this excretory organ in the bigger perspective to talk about. So here we are saying no, black cells should not be there in the urine at all. The urine should never be reddish in color. If at all, then there is something to worry about. What is this condition at all? If we see, this is what is known as hematuria. What is hematuria? A condition where the urine appears reddish. Albumin. What is albumin? It's a type of a protein present in the blood. The blood plasma, when we try understanding, when we study circulatory system, we will understand all these things in detail. When we are talking about the blood plasma, blood has got a variety of proteins. Albumin is there, globulin is there, fibrinogen is there. So many different type of proteins apart from this. Albumin is a type of a protein present in the plasma, which otherwise should not be present in the urine, and it has got very important functions to perform, albumin. So when we are talking about that the urine is having an adequate amount of albumin present, which may make the urine little bit frothy, foamy ho jata hai urine. So when we are talking about because of the presence of the urine, because of the presence of the albumin in the urine, we may understand, yes, there may be various other conditions associated with the person suffering from cholesterol problems, excessive amounts of fat deposition in the tissues, etc., etc. So this condition is known as albuminuria when we are talking about a condition known as high amount of protein in the urine, which is not normal. High amount of protein in the urine is also associated with structural deformity of the kidney. Quite often seen in children also. Quite often seen in children, which needs prolonged treatment. So when we are talking about under various conditions, yes, the urine may be a little bit soapy and frothy in consistency, which clearly indicates the presence of protein in the urine, not a regular feature. Osmo regulation, what was the definition? Who remembers? What was the definition of osmo regulation?
Salt and water.
Maintenance of salt and water balance in the blood. We already studied about a concept of reabsorption. And now, if you get a question that what is the significance of reabsorption? Ye jo hai ADH and vasopressin and ADH we are talking about. Why should reabsorption happen so efficiently? Agar nahi ho raha hai to kya problem hai? If there is a little bit of water loss and all these things, ions and water loss, then what is the problem? No, the problem is not only water and ion loss, but the blood is becoming thick. If there is no proper reabsorption happening because of the deficiency of ADH, the water is lost so much from the body and the blood is becoming thick. And if the blood is becoming thick, will the process of circulation happen efficiently? No. Will the oxygen supply happen to the tissues? No again. And so many other problems. So now that we are understanding that osmo regulation, which we understand is a separate process happening in the body. No, along with the filtration and reabsorption that we are understanding, yes, the volume and the pressure and the ionic constituents, everything of the blood gets corrected. अगर ये process correctly नहीं होगा, then the blood will become thick. That's the reason our body is made up in such a way, see here, that we are talking about a process where certain hormones are allowing the process of reabsorption happen, allowing only a minimal amount of water loss, which is just needed to dissolve the waste, and the maximum amount go back to the blood again. The maximum amount of ions and salts and proteins remain in the blood. So to maintain the temperature of the body, to maintain the homeostatic condition, to maintain the volume of the blood, and to maintain the composition of the blood. So that is what we are talking about as osmo regulation. With reference to this, we understand that the urine output comparatively is lesser in summer. When we are talking about urine output would be comparatively lesser in summer, and we may also understand how in certain cases we may also talk about urine output may be lesser in winter also. But the explanations are different. When we are talking about that urine output is lesser in summer, what is the reason? But in summer we drink a lot of water, no? We drink a lot of fluids. But why do we come across that in summer sometimes the urine output may be very low? Because there is enough amount of surface evaporation, skin by the way of the water loss is happening by the way of skin perspiration. So during summer there is so much of perspiration happening, so much of water loss by the way of the skin. This may be also responsible to some extent for the less amount of water input. But if I talk about it, that winter the amount of urine output is lesser. What would be the explanation at that time? Less consumption of water, because there is no the external temperature is not high enough, and the urge for drinking water is comparatively much lesser. Again, we understand people suffering or a person suffering from cholera, quite often we come across person suffering from cholera. Now, did we ever come across or did we ever hear that a person is suffering from cholera and the person must have collapsed? Otherwise, we understand that cholera is a minor infection. No? Cholera is a minor viral infection where the contaminated food and water, if a person consumes, then the process of digestion does not happen properly, and the person may be suffering from some watery stools, etc., vomiting, etc. What are some of the common symptoms of cholera? Diarrhea and vomiting. These are the two prominent symptoms that a person generally goes through. Vomiting and diarrhea. So, इससे क्या हो रहा है? So much of the water is lost from the body. एक तो vomiting हो रहा है, and then diarrhea by the way of the lungs, and so much of the water is lost. So now in both these processes, so much of the water is lost, and the kidneys are not getting adequate amount of water to be reabsorbed and given to the blood. So that is the reason, if a person is suffering from cholera, why does urine output become much lesser? Because so much of water is lost by the way of vomiting or by diarrhea. Next is we talk about artificial kidney. What is this process known as? A process known as dialysis or hemodialysis. We move away. Hemodialysis when we are talking about. What is hemodialysis? Hemodialysis meaning we are talking about artificial filtration of the blood. Hemodialysis, what are we talking about? Artificial filtration of the blood. Why is that necessary and what is the process? When we are talking about that, yes, quite a number of times we may come across that a person may be surviving with maybe one functional kidney. Quite a number of times we do come across people like that. Quite a number of times we do also come across that out of the two kidneys, one may be functional and that also only 50%. Maybe the right kidney is not much functional and the right kidney is, and then also that right kidney which is functional only by 50%. So there are many factors to this. If I talk about age as a factor, if I talk about body condition as a factor, a person with 50% working condition of the kidney may very well survive. Yes, if I'm talking about a person in the lower age group, when the person does not have any other ailment much, but the same condition, if I'm talking about a person something around 70 plus, that needs immediate medical help. So today, when we are talking about dialysis, it is not only a condition where we are talking about a 80 plus individual and almost the body is almost on the verge of getting collapsed. Not that. Today we also come across individual school, college going children. Today we also come across professionals who may be going for artificial filtration of the blood. Maybe once a week, maybe once a month, maybe every fortnight, maybe every 15 days. That is also happening nowadays. But yes, in the adverse condition, we come across where the person must be hospitalized and maybe every day or twice a day in the process of dialysis, depending on what condition of the body. But anyway, whatever the condition is, what has been done here? What has been done here? We are talking about that the kidneys are not able to undergo the process of filtration of the blood. So, what is the most important worry here? The most important worry is if the kidney is not able to filter the blood, the urea is getting concentrated. The uric acid is getting deposited in the muscles. So that is the problem. So urea and uric acid somehow has to be released out of the body. So in this entire process, I just try to show you in a simple setup here, where there is a dialyzing unit this way. There is a dialyzing unit this way, where there will be a series of tubes. There will be a series of tubes, and these tubes should more or less allow the blood run, and the blood has to be taken from a special artery of the arm known as the radial artery, and the blood is running here, the blood is running here, the blood is running here. These tubes, which are made of artificial tissues, these tubes should be having a particular permeability. What should the permeability of these tubes be? The permeability of these tubes are more or less like the DCT. The permeability of the tubes are more or less like the DCT. If you remember, we already discussed that the DCT is permeable to urea, uric acid. The PCT is not much permeable to urea, uric acid. So this tube should allow the movement of the urea, should allow the movement of the uric acid, should allow the movement of the potassium ions, creatinine, etc., etc. So as the blood is moving in these tubes and all these components should move out, but move out where? Move out in a dialyzing solution. Move out in a dialyzing solution and get dissolved in this solution in the surrounding of this tube. So in the surrounding of this tube, there is a dialyzing solution. Entire setup contains a series of tubes where the blood is running, and on the outside environment of the tubes, there is a solution packed. And this solution from time to time has to be changed. The dialyzing solution from time to time has to be changed. Now, how long does this process take on an average? 6 to 8 hours. Minimum 6 to 8 hours. And in this period, the dialyzing solution has to be changed. Quite frequently, the dialyzing solution has to be changed. Now, the reason why the dialyzing solution has to be changed? Because from the blood, through these tubes, as the urea, uric acid is coming out and getting dissolved in this dialyzing solution, before the dialyzing solution gets concentrated with urea, the solution has to be changed and fresh solution should be put in. Because if the concentration of urea is becoming more here, if the concentration of urea is becoming more here, it will start going back. No, it will start going back. So in the tube, we are talking about the blood flowing. The blood is always supposed to have a higher concentration of urea as compared to the solution outside. And that's the reason the urea is coming out, diffusing out and dissolving in the solution. And from time to time, the solution has to be changed. New solution has to be introduced and the used solution has to be changed. So this is a particular process where we talk about artificial filtration of the blood, the process known as hemodialysis. Hemodialysis. Sometimes 1 mark question, there's a diagram, I think, on hemodialysis. Just check at the last part of the chapter. Is there any diagram on hemodialysis? Okay, no, you don't have this diagram. So sometimes 1 mark question you get on this, 1 2 mark question you get on this. Now we are almost done with the questions of the text and the volume, right? Go through the chapter. If there's anything to clarify, please clarify in the next class. And in the next class, I think I want to start with the continuity of this chapter, circulatory system. Did we do that? Which chapter do you want?
The transpiration and absorption.
Transpiration and absorption you want now. Okay. ठीक है, absorption, transpiration, that set of chapters you can start.
I had a doubt. Can you tell the difference between RNA and DNA?
RNA and DNA. If you talk about DNA, DNA is double stranded. Two filaments it has, connected by hydrogen bonds. And just based on that, if I have to talk about RNA, RNA is single stranded, only one thread it has. Single stranded. Achha, और क्या basic for you to understand? If you talk about the nitrogenous basis, do you remember the nitrogenous basis of the DNA? They have bases like adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. For RNA, adenine is there, guanine is there, cytosine is there, thymine is not there. They have got uracil instead of thymine. They have got uracil. They have got uracil instead of thymine. So there are many differences. DNA is more stable, RNA is less stable. There are 4 nucleotides. DNA also has 4, RNA also has 4, but the types are different. Here we are talking about nucleotides containing A, G, C, T. For RNA, you talk about nucleotides containing A, G, C, U. Uracil. Understood? DNA is more stable because 2 strands are connected by hydrogen bonds. Nothing like that for RNA. In fact, if I talk about majorly, DNA always found in complex organisms, RNA found in viruses basically. RNA is a genetic material of viruses. Okay? So with this chapter, anything more? Go through the chapter, and if there is anything that you have to clarify in the next class and ask for your requirement. All of you, if we start with absorption, it's okay for all of you? हाँ बोलो और कुछ है बोलो 1 minute बोलो
The 17.
read out
How many mitotic divisions must occur in a cell of a root tip to form 128 cells?
128, that should be 7. For every cell undergoing mitosis, the number of cells formed is 2. वैसे करके काउंट करो. For every 1 cell, it should be 2 cells. What are the other options there? 7 है.
7, 64, 127, 128.
7, 64,
127 and 128.
128. See there, the rule is for every single cell undergoing the process of mitosis, 2 cells you get. So now you are talking about 128 cells. You are talking about 128 cells. For 128 cells, if you now consider, say suppose just divide by how many sets of division you want. No, how many sets of division? Divide by 7. How many sets of division? You get even sets of division, no? 128 को 7 से divide करो. How many sets of division you get? 7, 128 को divide करो 7 से. Point नहीं होगा. 128 है ना? 18 है. It is 7 क्योंकि every particular cell divides into 2. Every particular cell divides into 2. Every particular cell is divided into 2. Mitotic set of cell divisions. Okay. Yes. और क्या है? Go through the questions of the volume. The worksheet that is there in the volume. ये कौन सा पेपर है? Bio no more test now next. Question क्या है? Chromosomes.
इधर ही बैठो इधर ही बैठो किधर जा रहे
GL
ऐसे इधर ही बैठेंगे तो बुढ़े का
એના